to you about a passion of mine, and that is solar eclipses. So what exactly is a solar eclipse? It is when the moon covers the sun from your vantage point on Earth. And you can see up there, we've got Earth. You're standing on Earth. The moon is going in front of the sun. Now, there is a remarkable two coincidences that happen in nature that allow solar eclipses to happen. One is that the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but also 400 times closer to us. That's incredibly important. That means that the moon and the sun are the same size during an eclipse. Now the sun goes around the Earth in what's called the ecliptic, and that path across the sky is followed by the moon by either 5 degrees north or 5 degrees south. And on the nodes, they actually intersect each other. So when you have a solar eclipse, you have the moon passing in front of the sun on one of those nodes. A lunar eclipse is when the sun has the Earth between itself and the moon. So in that upper picture, you would picture Earth in the middle. Here is totality. I want to remind you that this is a coincidence. Again, the moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, but 400 times closer to us, and that is a perfect alignment, which is what allows a solar eclipse to look the way it does when it happens. Now, there are lunar eclipses too. A lunar eclipse, what you see, the moon does not go away. It actually turns a fiery bright red, and that's because the shadow of the Earth, the sun would be behind, the Earth is in the middle, the shadow of the Earth, the atmosphere causes the red spectrum to land on the moon. Now, many people aren't aware that the moon does not go around the Earth in a perfect circle. It actually is an ellipse. So sometimes the moon is further away from the Earth, and sometimes it's a little closer. It's actually about 30 miles difference between the moon being close and far. When the moon is further away, it's a little smaller, so that when it crosses in front of the sun, it doesn't completely cover it. That's called an annual eclipse. A partial eclipse is as the moon's going across the sun, it's not exactly lined up, so it doesn't completely cover it. This is an annular eclipse. This photograph was taken in an eclipse I saw in Iceland, actually, at 4 o'clock in the morning. You can see that the moon is not quite fully covering the sun, and there's a ring of fire around the outside. You cannot look at that with the naked eye, because if you saw even a little bit of the sun, you would burn your retina. This is a partial eclipse, and many of you may have had experiences in your childhood where you created those little viewers so that you could project this. You cannot look directly at a partial eclipse. You would burn your eye. But you see there, part of the moon is beginning to cover the sun. This could either be a partial or a totality. Now, the second coincidence in nature that allows eclipses to happen, which I think is pretty amazing, is that if you took the whole history of the solar system and you thought about all the things that could happen in the world about that, you'd see that actually human beings have only lived for the very end. Oh my God, I'm ahead of myself. Well, okay, so it's amazing to me that solar eclipses happen at all, because is it really a coincidence? Is it really a happy accident? Or is this God? To me, this solar eclipse was taken in Antarctica by a friend of mine. I think that's an extraordinary photograph. Now, this is my very first eclipse. You see how happy I look. It is actually pouring rain in this picture, and one of the challenges of observing solar eclipses is that you have to find a spot where the weather is good, because if it's raining, you can't see it. I've been a number of places in the world to observe solar eclipses. This is where I've been in the Western Hemisphere. My first eclipse was in France. That's the one that got rained out. I once trekked across the Sahara Desert to see one in Niger. I've also been to Panama. When the shadow of the moon crosses the Earth, you never know where it's going to be. It could not necessarily be on a continent. I thought you'd enjoy seeing this. This, to me, represents the cultural experiences that I've had observing eclipses. This is a Tuareg, a man in the desert, that I traveled for 10 days across the Sahara to observe one. This is the Eastern Hemisphere eclipses that I've seen. Mongolia up there, I traveled about 36 hours to see a 2.5-minute eclipse. So it sounds crazy, but if you've ever seen one, you know exactly why I do this. They're really, you don't forget them. My very first successful eclipse was in southern Africa. This is a photograph of kids observing an eclipse prior to totality in Mongolia, and I was fascinated to see the way kids respond to this phenomenon in nature. Two of these boys got into a big fist fight with each other during totality, and one of the girls burst into tears and cried the whole time. This was my eclipse last summer. This is in the East China Sea. I'm on a boat here. You can see, hopefully, that there's Mercury right near the sun. This is at totality. There's Venus up in the right up there. And there is a 360-degree fiery sunrise type viewing from on the horizon. The next eclipse in the United States is going to be August 21st, 2017. Be there. It's going to come into the United States in Oregon. It's going to cut across and go out South Carolina. Maximum is going to be in Kentucky. Be sure to check the weather forecast before you decide where to go. And I just want to say that although eclipses only happen for a couple minutes, you see one and it reverberates for a lifetime. So please try not to miss the next solar eclipse if you can.
Hi, my name is Jay Bright. Happy to be here tonight and talk about old buildings. They're all over the place. They need some care and attention, and I've built my practice on doing just that. I've tried to pull out some lessons of things that I've seen again and again to share with you here tonight.